Good morning, everyone. Welcome to London Street Photography Festival Day 2. We've got some amazing talks for you today. And in the end of the day, we'll announce our winners. Right now, we've got an amazing talk by Photo Israel, which came out from our collaboration together. So without further ado, I will introduce Michal from Photo Israel. So, Michal, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today with you, Marie, and with Daniel. I would like to share a short presentation, please. Can you all see? Is that okay? Okay, so we are talking today about our collaboration regarding the Chaos Photo Marathon, which was held this last February. And I'm very, very happy to introduce our partners at the Photo Marathon. The London Street Photography Festival is one of our main partners, and who we are. So we are Photo Israel. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of the art of photography in Israel and abroad, with the vision of a better society through the language of photography. We are an NGO, and this is one of our main projects for this past year. The photo marathon winners will be not just introduced here at the London Street Photography Festival, but also in Baku, Colombia, and in the International Photography Festival, which is the largest photography event taking place in Tel Aviv each year. This year, mid-November. So you are all welcome if you can join us, and also physically and online. Our initiative of the photo marathon was together with in a very close partnership with Chutzpah Center, and specifically the author and global speaker Inbal Arieli, who brings the mindset of chutzpah to the world. And uncertainty and chaos is one of the core skills for the future, which she talks about and writes about in her book, Chutzpah, Why Israel is a Hub of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So she sent us this quote: "If life is naturally disorganized, wouldn't developing the skills necessary to deal with its unpredictability be more effective than trying to create order?" And this initiative of Chaos Photo Marathon tried to in some way find the right photos to different challenges of chaos during this period of we are all in history. So the first international photo marathon took place in February, and the winners, as I said, will be introduced here in the London Street Photography Festival, in Baku, in Bogota, during October, and in Tel Aviv, November 17. We had very distinguished jury members. One of them is Mary, which just introduced me. And I would like to shortly show you the finalists in the photo marathon. I will just say a word that when we organized this slideshow, we decided to take challenge number 6, that's called Make It Happen. And we asked photographers to create a personal portrait that tells something about how they as creators are ready for the new challenges that life provides. So you will see throughout this presentation on the right hand, different portraits of the 20 finalists. And specific other challenges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 challenges, I will just show shortly. So the first challenges was to embrace uncertainty, and these are the selected artists that really had surprising photos regarding this challenge. So you can see here on the right hand, as I said, the portrait, and on the left hand, the challenge of embracing uncertainty. Challenge number 2 was Dare to Fail. We see that we cannot move forward without failing. So I will just show you some very interesting artworks regarding this issue. Challenge number 3, challenge the obvious at times of digital transformation. And we are also now, we are online meetings, so it's very relevant to what we're doing right now. The second place winner. The fourth challenge was ask questions, and the COVID really challenged us as creators and made us ask new questions. What is the world going through? How did it affected and changes us and other festivals around the world, and of course photographers? And challenge 5, collaborate. And also this is very, very relevant, and we're very thankful for London Street Photography and all other partners that joined us in this special project. And I'm very, very happy and honored to introduce our first place winner, Daniel Adams from Malaysia. Daniel, you will tell me when to change the pictures because I'm pressing it, but the platform is yours. So thank you very much.
Okay, cool. Hi, I am Daniel Adams. I guess okay. The way I describe who I am, I guess, as a photographer, I'm a conceptual portrait artist based in KL, Malaysia. I look a little bit different from the photo there, 'cause, you know, some things have changed during this lockdown in Malaysia with COVID. But yeah, I'll get into it. I guess I'm just gonna be just kind of talking about the way I made the work and the way that like my brain works in a way. So for this, it was really fun. It was really exciting. I thought I'd decide to join a photo marathon just to kind of pass the time because we were going through a third lockdown because of COVID here in KL. And I kind of wanted to do something creative and kind of keep things like moving, which would be really exciting. So this opportunity came about, and some of the photographers who I had an exhibition with the previous year thought I should join, and I decided to join. And what I did is I have a bunch of housemates, and one of my housemates is a makeup artist. So I kind of got her to be the model for all of the images, and we spent the whole day just kind of running around and creating these photos, and it was really, really cool. Okay, yeah, you can change the next slide. So the first one was, okay, the fact that we were given 24 hours, we were given 6 challenges, and there was no pre-planning, there was no knowing what like the previous or the next challenge was kind of stressful, but at the same time, like I think I work quite well under pressure, so it was nice to get back into that stress of like shooting and creating work and having deadlines, even though the deadline was like an hour after each thing was like exposed to me, I guess. So the first one, okay, I've written a bunch of notes down here because I actually don't really remember what each one was about because it's so long ago. But photo 1, I've said here that it was actually about having the good and bad in your life, and trying to balance the two in order for you to go through life smoothly. I think when I heard about, I think the challenge was about balance, and the challenge was about the good and the bad, right? But I didn't want to take it through like a very obvious path. So I decided to do this. The beads and stuff, that was all for texture, but I think in the end it kind of made it feel like you were trapped. And she's offering these cookies because these cookies are the good things and they're slowly being taken away from you. So that's the bad part. And like the cookies are also in her head and she's trying to balance them. So it's the good and the bad being balanced. And it was just about like having that like one tone and trying to portray exactly what I wanted to say through that one tone of color. I also, discretion is that a disclaimer, sorry, is that I'm terrible with my words. That's why I'm a photographer, and that's why I've chosen to use like visuals as my meaning of kind of like communication. So I apologize if my words are not as great as the photos. Okay, so the second photo was the first challenge actually, and that was it was about, I think it was playing with light, and that was really, really cool because playing with light, especially natural light, I've been wanting to go back and take photos in natural light for a long time now because I've been using a lot of my studio space to create these images, and I kind of wanted to stray away from that. So me and Vivian, who is my housemate, woke up at 6:30 a.m. To get ready so that she can do her makeup, and it was super simple stuff. I gathered a bunch of stuff that I had around the house, and I picked up this mirror on the way out, and I was like, okay, this would be really cool. Maybe we can bounce some of the light off. And we were trying to catch the sunrise, and when the sun was rising, it was really like bright, and we were trying to catch the lights, and there was no light. It was cloudy. We couldn't really see anything. And it was a complete waste of time. And then as soon as we were going to go back to try something else, this really pretty ball of light kind of just came over the horizon, and that was so perfect. So we went in, we live in a gated community, and it's a residential housing area, and we decided to go into one of the guard posts because there was no guard in it at the time. So we went inside, and there was this window that had all these lines of it on it, and the light came through that little spot so perfectly. So I took like 150 photos of this because the way the light bounced off of the mirror and onto her face was just so beautiful. And I just like the way that like half of her iris on one eye is dark and the rest is bright. I don't know, it just kind of makes you look through her and like into her at some point. But yeah, that's the kind of like overall understanding of those two photos. Okay, you can go next. Oh, I think, are you on mute? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this photo on the left, this was about the perception of work. And 2020 was a difficult year, right? Like with the pandemic and everything that happened, it was just so stressful. And it was just like a weird, like adapting to this new sense of life, I guess. And the photo on the left is literally my description of what it's like to work from home. Not knowing at all like what I'm trying to do, trying to figure out all these pages and like having Zoom calls and like not being able to interact with people. I'm kind of sat at like, because I'm a photographer, but I do have a part-time job as a creative lead at a social media agency here. So I do still go on calls and I still have work to do. So it was me going on calls, like, you know, sitting upright with my clothes on and just kind of looking at staring at the screen, kind of figuring out what these people are saying and like what I'm supposed to do without having the interaction of working together. Also, I did buy, during this third lockdown, which is when the photo marathon happened, I did buy this inflatable pool to put outside in our porch, just so that I could try and actually do work in this pool. And it successfully happened once. I was lying in the pool and I had a chair outside of it and my laptop was there and I was like in the sun trying to do work, like lying down. It was the worst experience of my life because I could not see the screen because it was so sunny. And I was trying not to get my equipment wet and all that. But yeah, I think this kind of sums up my realization of what working from home is really like, especially with like the cars outside where our cars are parked and me kind of fumbling in the water. Yeah. Okay, and then the photo on the right. So that one, okay, so I have to read a little blurb about what it's about, basically. So I wrote here that the Malaysian government has been using the media to divert people's attention from pressing issues during the pandemic, such as the treatment of foreign workers and politicians getting away with blatant violations of restrictions. Instead, they focus on increasing the penalties on the LGBTQ plus community and making a fuss about the immorality of sugar babies. During this lockdown, there were a lot of issues in Malaysian politics. We were doing so well in 2020 with the prevention of COVID, and then some sort of political thing happened. I'd get into it, but it would take way too long to explain. But basically, the MPs went to Sabah, which is in East Malaysia, and they came back and didn't quarantine, and basically spread COVID from East Malaysia all around West Malaysia, and now we have 20 to 30,000 cases a day. And instead of focusing on that, and instead of focusing on basically the treatment of foreign workers and stuff, they decided to focus on other things such as the LGBT plus community and trying to put more restrictions into the LGBT plus community, which has literally nothing to do with COVID, nothing to do with the pandemic. And instead of focusing on the people and the country itself, they're focusing on these issues that literally do not matter. Like, the LGBT plus community is trying to live their life. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it gets me so mad, but anyway. And then another article came out at the time where they were saying that the idea of sugar babies, because there was a site called Sugar Book, and because of the pandemic, a lot more people were going on Sugar Book to get sugar daddies and sugar mummies and stuff. But they were saying that it was immoral and that we need to take it down and this is a massive issue in the country, blah, blah, blah. So yet again, they were like trying to deflect the real issue into these other issues. And that's basically what this image is about. I know it doesn't really look like it, but it's that those metaphors that kind of came into play that I thought was really interesting. Okay, next slide. Cool. And then this one was the hardest one that I was trying to create. I thought this was the hardest challenge for me. They required 6 photos, so this is 3 of the 6 photos. And I thought that the idea of them being raw, I think one of the key words there was that they need to be raw, they need to be emotional, they need to be vulnerable. And I thought that was so difficult for me to plan so quickly, because usually my projects and my work takes like months of planning and me kind of doing the research and coming back and forth and fixing the idea and doing all that stuff. So I think it was a little bit difficult for me to kind of come up with it on the spot, but my housemate threw all these ideas at me and kind of bounced ideas back and forth. And I think that helped a lot, which was really good. So basically, these are what these images mean. So the first one was about me being able to slow down and find the balance. So it's kind of about self-care and love. And my life has been so fast-paced the past couple of years that the pandemic and staying at home has allowed me to kind of sit down and take things and process things, I think, in a different manner. So that was that idea, and that, like, obviously I don't put tea bags on my face when I'm trying to like relax, but I thought it was a really good like metaphor, because the tea bag is hot and it just kind of relaxes you in some sense. So the second photo, I said here that my stress levels in my personal life had been enhanced because I've been stuck in one place and I have been overthinking everything. And being stuck in these 4 walls has been very difficult mentally, like mental health wise and like mentally and stuff. It's been very, very difficult over the past year and a half. Trying to keep sane and trying to make sure that you're going down the right route and you're not making mistakes, and like all the, your past, like, have you made the right decisions, and like all that has been coming flooding back, and like it's difficult to like sit down and process them. But then that goes back to the first photo where I kind of learned how to process them and learn how to deal with them, which is good. But yeah, so the second photo, I actually originally wanted to put my head in the oven, or my friend's head in the oven. And we tried that, but our oven's too small, so we couldn't fit her head in the oven. It just looked a bit weird. So we got our sandwich maker out and put her hand in there, sorry. And I thought that was a lot more relatable because sometimes you just want to like, oh, when things get too overwhelming. Okay, and then the third one, which is the last one, which is actually one of my favorite photos, is my perception of the loss of faith in the system. And I think the system that I was trying to focus on was like, the government, the issues happening in my country, but also like the way that the health system worked. You know how everywhere in the world, like the health systems were collapsing and, no one could really like figure out how to do things at once. And everyone was just kind of saying about how like these systems have been put in place and they don't have the necessary like backup. Is that the right word? But yeah, like the backup kind of drive or the backup systems to help the first system being put in place. So I think this was kind of like a visual to represent those thoughts. And I put screws on her face because it's basically a metaphor of us being screwed over. Whether it's by the systems that were there in the first place or our government and just the way that things work. It was just a very stressful time, and it's still currently a very stressful time. So I think this photo relates to me very, very well in general. But yeah, all in all, it was a really cool experience. I've never done a photo marathon before, and I definitely do it again because it really helps you to, well, it helped me at least to, the pressure helped me to kind of like stray away from what I have been so caught up in terms of my styling and the way that I work and the way that I photograph, that it allowed me to explore different styles, and that was really interesting. Yeah, so that was very, very cool.
And I've got some questions, but
Yes.
also your model has amazing skin.
She really does. Honestly, I can't tell you how many steps she has in her skincare that she applies twice a day.
Should I stop the share so everyone can see Danielle? Yeah?
Yes, I think it's a good idea. All right, Dan, one of the questions. Did you have any of those ideas beforehand, or you need to completely improvise for the contest?
I had to completely improvise for the contest. I had no idea what I was going to do, but also I don't think any of those ideas I had beforehand, because I hadn't really been thinking about any of the topics that were presented, if that makes sense. Yeah, those are kind of just all on the spot. We got the challenge, and then I scribbled some notes in my notebook and looked at Pinterest and did some research and stuff like that, seeing what we could do. And then from there, I kind of just, we created these photos basically.
Another question for me, actually. Where do you think your photography goes next?
Okay, oh my God. This one's stressful because I don't know. But
yeah, just a small question.
where does my photography go next? I have been very focused, especially because I studied in the UK at uni, and I came back a few years ago. And my photography has been very focused on conceptual stuff. And then I came back for a year, and after that, okay, this is all a bit jumbled up, sorry. So basically I went to uni, and like it was very concept based, and I was doing a lot of like magical, like ethereal kind of stuff. I came back and my work started focusing more on kind of like social causes and political causes here, and it's kind of surrounded around those ideas. And it was a lot of input from like the culture and the traditions here that I wanted to put into my photos. But then during the Women's March in 2018, there were a group of people from the LGBTQ community, and they were kind of doing their thing, part of the protest, you know. Sorry, not the protest, the march. And they were doing their own chants and everything, and it went online and went viral. And there was this one viral video that I remember just kind of damning the allowance of the LGBT community to be there and to speak their voice and to say how wrong it is, blah, blah, blah. And I think it just frustrates me so much how the community is so marginalized, especially here, that I wanted to focus my work on trying to kind of platform and spotlight marginalized communities in Malaysia. So that's where my work is at the moment. So it's still very conceptual based, and it's kind of focusing on these topics. But after this, I think I do want to still focus on these. So basically, my thoughts are that when I see a lot of issues, they are always in Word format and there's always long writing, and I tend to lose focus. So what I'm trying to do is I want to put it out there in a visual format that is very aesthetic and it's very educational, so that other people will be able to learn from the photos about these issues. And I think that's where my photos are going to continue going for my personal work, but I'm also really interested in trying to take that format and implement it into commercial work and like adverts and stuff, and seeing how far that could go, possibly in the future, I think.
Yeah, because we had quite a few photographers yesterday who are really focused on the aesthetic. And you know, you're trying to do it in a different way.
Sort of, yeah, I think so. I'm trying to like combine the educational and the aesthetic elements together, so that it's not just aesthetic photos, it's something that you can learn from as well.
I think if I can jump in, I think this social agenda that you're proposing here is not just interesting, but also very important. And I think it's not by mistake that you're the winner. We had a very distinguished jury members, but us as an organization, Photo Israel, is a very into social agenda, political photography, and I think that's very, very well fit, I would say. It's very aesthetic and it's very beautiful, but it has a different layer, another layer, which brings a lot of depth into your work. So I just wanted to say that I'm very happy to speak with you, and now that I learn even more, I see how it's the right match. So thank you.
That really means a lot. Thank you.
Dan, we have a question for you.
Okay.
What do you think documentary/street photographers can borrow from conceptual and stage photography, and the other way around?
Okay. So I have a friend who is a photographer, and she's a documentary photographer. And what I learned from her, what I've spoken to her about in terms of like photography and like different stuff and how she works and how I work, is that I think I can learn from her, or from street photography and documentary photography in capturing moments apart from the ones that are planned. Because the way that I work, everything is so planned, it's so meticulously planned. Like I have months and months of research and like notes and like kind of Excel spreadsheets trying to like put things together and blah, 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 so that I know exactly what the photo in the end's gonna look like. I think I can learn, or conceptual photographers can learn a lot about photographing that, but also learning how to stray away from that and being more in the moment as well. You can follow your plan, but that's more of like a little kind of note basis, and like you can change things and work with what you have in that moment and try to capture things that feel necessary at that point in time. Yeah, I think that's a super important thing that I've learned, especially, and to not take like my notes so seriously, and so that I can like change it up as well. In terms of like documentary and social documentary photographers, learning from conceptual photographers, I don't know, maybe the idea of using using metaphors in your work to speak about something else, or speaking about like certain topics that you are trying to photograph, or like the moments that you're trying to photograph, and using these metaphors and these symbolisms to represent them in those photos. Because by doing that, like obviously you are capturing a moment, you're capturing these beautiful moments actually, but elements of that, including like the perspective and the angles and the composition and stuff, can help to drive a stronger narrative than you might already have.
Another really important questions. Sorry. I need to get some water. Are you coming to LSPF 2022 in London?
I would love to. Hopefully, my fingers are crossed. I'm thinking of going to the UK in January and seeing how things work out. So if I am there, then possibly yes.
That's great. Michal, can you think of any other questions to Dan?
Yeah. You said that the photo marathon is a platform. You felt it was it did something new for you as a photographer. And since we are working towards the International Photography Photo Marathon of 2022, which will probably be around, I don't know, February, like last year, I wanted to ask, would you recommend it for other photographers, and why? Thank you.
Can
yeah.
I just jump in quickly?
Yeah.
Dan, don't recommend it, so you can win it next year.
That would be cool, but I think I definitely recommend it. I have been in a very kind of like what's that, you know, the tunnel vision thing where you only kind of look at like one direction with my photography recently. And I think last year, November to Feb, I was trying to figure out ways to change it up a bit and trying to get out of my own styling, because every time I would try to change it up, when it comes to editing, I just end up editing it the same way that I would usually edit it, and the style would just continue. So I tried everything. Like in December, I gave myself a 15, 16-day photo marathon myself, basically. And I came up with different ideas, and I had to plan it out and shoot it according to the ideas that people gave me on Instagram. But this one was slightly different because you kind of have to like work it on the spot without the planning. So I think it changed the way I kind of think about certain things. And it forced me to kind of, I don't know, it forced me to use what I already have, right? And make something different, especially with the briefs and the deadlines and stuff. Because obviously I was giving myself my own briefs beforehand, and I think that was why I was quite stuck. But getting someone else getting an organization basically, or photo marathon to give me these briefs kind of helped that. I think I would recommend it for artists or photographers who are stuck. But I'd also recommend it for like artists and photographers in general, because it's a good experience to be able to understand how you work under pressure, and like the way that like you are able to create under different circumstances, I think.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dan. Question for me. How do you think your work changed during COVID?
How has my work changed during COVID? There are less people in my work now. I guess that's one thing. I used to create large products with large groups of people, and now that's kind of changed. I can't really do any of that. I think obviously a lot of countries are now opening up, right? And a lot of countries don't have as many restrictions, but we have been in a lockdown, like not a complete lockdown, but we've been in a lockdown for about 3 months now. And the way that my work has changed since then is obviously I've gone from like people photography to product photography. That's like the most I can say in the most commercial sense possible. But I have been honestly struggling with my personal work in terms of coming up with personal work during these times because I'm so stuck. And the way that I find inspiration is talking to new people and meeting new people and having conversations with people and going to different countries and seeing their cultures and traditions and kind of coming back and kind of like rethinking things. So that's really stifled my work flow or my creativity flow. Yeah, it's definitely that bit's very different. Just the way that I work now is a lot slower. I don't get ideas as fast as before. And as depressing as it is, I'm not as inspired as before.
We have another question for you, Dan. Do you collaborate with other photographers or artists? In the documentary world, it's common that photographers are lone wolves. It feels like that can be the other way around in conceptual photography.
Oh, completely, yes. What I have learned, especially doing this, especially creating work about social genders, is that creating the work with individuals from the community you're creating the work about is so important, because as a person who is not from the community, you might showcase them or portray them in a certain perspective, which isn't the way that they want to be shown. So now, especially, I work with people from the community that I'm photographing. I think that's super important, whether they're photographers or whether they're artists or not. I think it's important to have a creative consultant when you're doing social gender work like that, especially with conceptual work. But apart from that, a lot of the projects, the big projects I've done in the past, have been collaborations with other photographers. One of the big projects I did before, that was with another photographer that I did, and we kind of bounced things off and we created the project together. Another one was about drag queens in Malaysia, and I collaborated with a drag queen herself, and she planned the project and I photographed it. And that was very cool. So yeah, I love working with other artists because obviously I have my like creative path, and sometimes I get so set on it that I need someone else to be able to break that. And for someone else to give me a fresh, brand new perspective on it. And I think that's really interesting. So I love working with other people, or other artists especially.
I'd love to see your drag queen photos. I think that sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Another question, Bhaskar, then, what inspires you?
What inspires me? I get, as cliche as it sounds, not everything and anything inspires me, I guess. But the main things is I used to travel once a month. And I know that comes from a standard privilege because not everyone can do that. But the traveling once a month really helped because it allowed me to kind of refresh from work and come back, and I would have gained all these new visuals from these different countries. Especially I'd go to Vietnam and I'd go to a museum, or I'd go to Europe and I go to all these art museums and art galleries and markets, and I see all the different art there. And I kind of like take that into consideration and I come back. And that was a big thing for me. Music, walking down the street, looking at trees, just the way that they move, the way that they dance in the wind and stuff like that. That's very inspiring, I think. I think nature's super inspiring. Going into nature especially, and just kind of like taking it all in and taking what it means to be in nature. I think that's really inspiring. A lot of music videos are super important on my end. I don't know why, but I think they have some really cool concepts recently, and that just really allows me to like take that and kind of process them. Music, books, a lot of articles, especially with social agenda work, and meeting new people. I don't know whether I'm in what's it called, X and in, forget it, never mind. I don't know whether I strive off of meeting new people and like figuring out their like kind of aura and stuff and working off of their aura. But I love going to events and networking and talking to new people and knowing what they do and how things work and how their processes work and like, I don't know, conjuring new ideas. And I would go to events all the time and we'd all be drunk and we'd be like talking for hours and hours and hours after the party. And I think that's the most important, like one of the more important bits that I have lost during COVID that inspired me so much. It's just being able to talk to other creatives about life and their work and the way they see things. And yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things we lost as well during COVID, because LSPF used to be like, this huge event. I always say there's like it's like a having all the family together, but actually family you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been different.
Yeah.
Michal, do you have any more questions for Dan? Would you jump in, please?
I think we covered the project and the photo marathon. I think you answered very, I don't know, very interesting, very great talk. And of course, I would love to keep working with you. And if it is possible for you to come November to Israel, I wish. There will be flights, so you will see your exhibition as a winner at the festival. And if not, then we will keep in touch online. Yes, and again, I wish to really thank the London Street Photography Festival for this great talk and for the collaboration, and hopefully for continuing this collaboration with this photo marathon platform for next year. So thank you very much.
Dan, any last words?
No, thanks for choosing me as the winner. That was cool, very great. Obviously, thanks for having me for this talk as well. It's nice to meet new people and have conversations again.
That's great. I think we're gonna stop here. Just a reminder that this video will stop on YouTube, and we'll get another video for Suresnagar Nathan at 1 p.m. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Michal.
Very great.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you very much. Take care.
One,
stay safe and healthy.
Yes, same.
Yes, you do.